The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their assigned seats, each species displaying their own unique form of irritation. The Vorthans clicked their claws against metal armrests. The Nexari flicked their forked tongues in displeasure. The crystal beings called Etherians hummed at frequencies that made nearby species uncomfortable. At the center of it all sat the human delegation, looking remarkably calm. Captain Jiwan adjusted her simple blue uniform and watched the chaos unfold around her. She had been representing humanity at these council meetings for 3 years now, and the pattern never changed. Every other species shouted, threatened, or schemed to get what they wanted. Humans simply waited and listened. Her second-in-command, Commander Minho, leaned over and whispered, "The Vorthans are getting angry again. Something about mining rights in the Centauri system." Jiwan nodded but said nothing. She had learned that silence often worked better than words in these situations. The other species expected drama and conflict. When humans remained quiet, it confused them. Counselor Thex, a massive reptilian creature from the Vorthan Empire, slammed his scaled fist on his speaking platform. "This is unacceptable. The Nexari have no claim to those asteroid fields. Our ships were there first." The Nexari representative, a tall being with pale skin and large black eyes, responded with cold precision. "Your ships were there first because you ignored the proper survey protocols. We filed the correct paperwork with the Council 3 cycles ago." "Paperwork?" Thex hissed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You hide behind bureaucracy because you lack the strength to take what you want." The argument continued for another hour. Other species joined in, taking sides based on old alliances and grudges. The noise level grew until it was almost unbearable. Finally, the council speaker, an ancient being whose species no one remembered, called for order. "Perhaps we should hear from the human delegation. Captain Jiwan, do you have any thoughts on this matter?" All eyes turned to the small human woman. She stood slowly, her movements calm and measured. The hall fell silent, waiting to see what the strange, peaceful species would say. "Honored counselors," Jiwan began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Both the Vorthans and Nexari have valid concerns. The asteroid field in question contains resources that both civilizations need. Perhaps there is a way to share the benefits." Thex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the walls. "Share? You speak like a child who has never seen real conflict. The strong take what they need. The weak accept what is left." Yuan smiled slightly. "On my homeworld we have a saying. The tree that bends in the storm survives while the rigid oak breaks and falls. Sometimes strength comes from flexibility." "Pretty words," Thex replied. "But words do not mine asteroids or build fleets. Your species has contributed nothing to this council except empty philosophy." Murmurs of agreement came from several delegations. It was true that humans had no great military victories to boast about. They did not control vast empires or command fear from their enemies. They ran hospitals and schools, helped with natural disasters, and mediated disputes between other species. Commander Minho felt his jaw tighten at the insult, but Captain Jiwan remained perfectly calm. "Perhaps Counselor Thex is right. We are not conquerors or empire builders. We prefer to help rather than hurt." The session ended without resolution, as most did. The various species returned to their ships, planning their next moves in the endless game of galactic politics. Only the humans seemed unconcerned about the outcome. Later that evening, Dr. Yuna worked in her laboratory aboard the Council station. As the head of xenobiology research, she studied the different alien species that made up the galactic community. Her current project involved understanding how various civilizations had evolved their aggressive tendencies. Her research partner, an insect-like being named Veeth, clicked his mandibles as he reviewed her latest data. "Your species is most unusual, Dr. Yuna. Every other sapient race we have studied shows clear evolutionary pressure toward violence and territorial behavior. Yet humans seem to have developed beyond such primitive instincts." Yuna looked up from her microscope. "We had our violent periods. Our history is full of wars and conflicts, but we learned from our mistakes." "How?" Veeth asked, genuinely curious. "Most species that achieve spaceflight do so by conquering their homeworld first. The strong dominate the weak until only one group remains to reach the stars. Humans did something different," Yuna explained. "We almost destroyed ourselves several times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, climate destruction. Each time we pulled back from the edge and found better ways to solve our problems. Veeth studied her with his compound eyes. So you chose to suppress your aggressive nature. Not suppress, Yuna corrected. We learned to control it. To channel it into protection rather than conquest. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Earth. Dr. Yuna accepted the transmission, and her colleague Dr. Hyun appeared on the holographic display. His face was grim. Yuna, we have a problem. The colony ship New Sol has missed its scheduled check-in. We lost contact with them 3 days ago near the outer rim. Yuna felt her heart skip. The New Sol was carrying 15,000 colonists to establish a new farming world. Families, children, scientists, teachers. People looking for a fresh start among the stars. What was their last known position? She asked. Grid reference 247 Alpha near the edge of explored space. Search and rescue teams are preparing to launch, but it will take them 2 weeks to reach the area. After the transmission ended, Veeth noticed the change in Dr. Yuna's demeanor. Her usual calm had been replaced by something harder to define. Not panic or fear, but a focused intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. Perhaps it is just a communication failure, he offered. Space is vast and dangerous. Ships do sometimes have technical problems, Yuna nodded. But she was already thinking about her friends and colleagues aboard the New Sol. Her research assistant Dong Min had been on that ship, excited about studying the native plant life on the New World. Captain Yejin, Jiwon's younger sister, had been so proud to command her first colony mission. 15,000 people. Families starting new lives. Children who had dreamed of seeing alien skies. Yes, she said quietly. Sometimes ships have problems, but deep in her mind, a small voice was whispering that this felt different. Wrong. The kind of wrong that made her ancestors sharpen spears and organize hunting parties. She pushed the thought away and returned to her work. Humans were peaceful now. They had evolved beyond their violent past. They were the mediators and helpers of the galaxy. Still, as she worked through the night, Dr. Yuna found herself thinking about old Earth legends. Stories of sleeping dragons and quiet waters that ran deep. Tales of peaceful people who became terrible when their families were threatened. Just stories, she told herself. Primitive myths from humanity's barbaric past, but the feeling would not leave her alone. 3 months had passed since the New Sol disappeared, and Captain Jiwon could feel something changing inside her. The diplomatic smile she wore during council meetings felt heavier each day. The patient words she spoke to alien representatives tasted like ash in her mouth. 2 more ships had vanished. The merchant vessel Busan Dream had been carrying medical supplies to refugee camps when it simply stopped responding to communications. Search teams found nothing but empty space where the ship should have been. No wreckage, no distress signals, no trace that 1,500 souls had ever existed. The research ship Daegu Explorer met the same fate while studying ancient ruins in neutral space. 800 scientists, researchers, and crew members gone without explanation. Dr. Yuna had known 12 people on that ship personally. Colleagues who had shared meals with her, friends who had helped her through difficult projects. Now the passenger liner Incheon Hope had joined the list of the disappeared. 5,000 passengers, mostly families moving to the frontier colonies, children who would never see their new homes. Parents who would never watch their kids grow up under alien suns. Commander Minho found Captain Jiwon standing alone in the observation deck of their ship, the UES Harmony. She was staring out at the stars, her hands clenched into fists behind her back. The council meeting is in an hour, he said quietly. I know. Her voice was flat. Emotionless, Captain, are you all right? Jiwon turned to face him, and Minho was shocked by what he saw. The patient diplomat was gone. In her place stood someone with eyes like winter storms. Cold and dangerous, 21,000 people. Minho, 21,000 of our people are gone, and the council treats it like a minor inconvenience. Minho had served with Captain Jiwon for 5 years. He had seen her negotiate peace treaties between warring species. He had watched her remain calm when alien diplomats insulted humanity to her face. But this was different. This was not the woman who turned the other cheek. What do you want to do? He asked. I want answers, and if I don't get them today, I'm going to start looking for them myself. The council chamber felt different that day. The usual political argument seemed smaller, less important. Captain Jiwon sat in her designated seat, but her stillness was not peaceful. It was the stillness of a predator watching prey. Councillor Thex was complaining about trade route security when Jiwon finally stood up. Honored speaker, she said, her voice cutting through the Vorthon's speech like a blade. I request permission to address the council about the missing human vessels. The ancient speaker nodded. The human delegate may speak. Jiwan walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye in the hall was on her, but she felt no nervousness. She felt something else entirely, something that reminded her of old Earth stories about warriors preparing for battle. 3 human ships have disappeared in the past 4 months. 21,000 people are missing. I have requested search parties. I have asked for investigation teams. I have begged this council to help find our people. Her voice grew stronger with each word. You have given me paperwork and empty promises. Counselor Thex waved a clawed hand dismissively. Space is dangerous, human. Ships are lost all the time. Perhaps your people are simply poor navigators. The chamber fell silent. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. In 3 years of service, no one had ever heard Captain Jiwan raise her voice or show anger. Poor navigators, she repeated slowly. Is that what you think? Your species lacks the instincts for deep space travel, Thex continued, either not noticing or not caring about the change in the human representative. You are farmers and merchants. Leave exploration to those better suited for it. Jiwan smiled, and every survival instinct in the chamber began screaming warnings. It was not a human smile anymore. It was something older, more primal. Counselor Thex, she said, her voice dangerously quiet. My species walked out of Africa and spread across an entire world, with nothing but stone tools and determination. We crossed oceans in wooden boats to reach unknown lands. We survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that would have destroyed weaker peoples. She began walking toward the Vorton delegation, and several guards moved nervously. We split the atom and touched the face of creation. We built machines that think and ships that bend space itself to our will. And you think we are poor navigators? Thex finally seemed to realize that something had changed. The massive reptilian began to rise from his seat, his hand moving toward the ceremonial weapon at his side. You forget yourself, human. Remember where you are. Jiwan stopped walking but did not step back. I remember exactly where I am. I am in a place where 21,000 of my people have vanished, and no one seems to care. The Nexari representative, Quilex, spoke for the first time. Captain Jiwan, perhaps you are allowing emotion to cloud your judgment. These disappearances could have natural explanations. Natural explanations. Jiwan turned her attention to the pale alien. Ships don't just disappear, Counselor Quilex. Families don't just vanish into nothing. Someone or something is taking our people, and this council is doing nothing to stop it. The Etherian sage Luminar pulsed with soft light as he spoke. The regions where your ships disappeared are known to be dangerous. Ancient phenomena exist in those areas that we do not fully understand. Then why, Jiwan asked, her voice carrying a new edge, have no other species lost ships in those same regions? Why is it only human vessels that disappear? The question hung in the air like smoke. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. It was a good point, and everyone knew it. Counselor Thex stood to his full impressive height. Are you suggesting that someone is deliberately targeting human ships? That is a serious accusation. I am suggesting, Jiwan replied, that 21,000 people do not simply vanish without help. I am suggesting that this council investigate before more innocent lives are lost. And if we refuse? Thex's voice carried a clear threat. Captain Jiwan looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate present. When she spoke again, her words would be remembered across the galaxy for generations to come. Then humanity will investigate on its own. The simple statement sent a chill through the chamber. There was something in the way she said it that suggested consequences beyond imagination. Captain, the ancient speaker said carefully, surely you do not mean to threaten the council. Jiwan turned to face the oldest being in the galaxy. I am not threatening anyone, honored speaker. I am simply stating a fact. My people are disappearing. If this council will not help find them, then we will find them ourselves. She walked back to her seat with measured steps. The diplomatic mask she had worn for 3 years was gone forever. In its place was something that made hardened warriors nervous and caused ancient beings to remember forgotten fears. Commander Minho watched his captain sit down and felt a shiver run down his spine. He had served in the human military before joining the diplomatic corps. He recognized the look in her eyes. It was the look of someone preparing for war. That night, alone in her quarters, Captain G1 made a call to Earth Command. The man who answered was Admiral Deho, her old commanding officer from the War College. G1, he said, his weathered face showing concern. I heard about the missing ships. How are you holding up? I need to ask you something, Admiral, and I need an honest answer. Go ahead. If I formally requested activation of the home fleet protocols, would Earth Command approve it? There was a long pause. Admiral Deho had known G1 since she was a young officer. He had trained her, promoted her, and recommended her for the diplomatic service. He had never seen her ask for the one thing that terrified every human leader. G1, those protocols haven't been activated since the Unification Wars. If we use them now, there's no going back. The galaxy will see who we really are. 21,000 people, Admiral, including my sister. Another pause. Your sister? Hyjin was commanding the Incheon Hope when it disappeared. She had just gotten married. She was taking her husband to meet his new assignment on New Geneva. Admiral Deho closed his eyes. Captain Hyjin was like a daughter to him. He had watched her grow from a cadet to a ship commander. The thought of her trapped somewhere, possibly suffering, made his old soldier's heart burn with rage. What exactly are you requesting? He asked. Full activation. Deep storage ships, classified weapons systems, everything. I want the Council to understand that humanity is not helpless. And if they still refuse to help? Captain G1's smile was visible even across the vast distance of space. It was not a pleasant sight. Then they will learn what happens when you threaten a human's family. The changes started small. Human diplomatic ships began requesting military escorts for routine missions. Trade negotiations suddenly included clauses about defensive systems. Medical ships that had served peacefully for decades started arriving at disaster zones with armed guards who moved like trained soldiers. Dr. Yuna noticed the shift first in her laboratory. The usual stream of human researchers and diplomats had been replaced by stern-faced individuals who spoke in military codes and carried weapons that didn't appear in any galactic database. Her research partner, Veeth, had become increasingly nervous. Dr. Yuna, something has changed among your people. The humans who visit the station now feel different, dangerous. Yuna looked up from her work. She had been analyzing data from the missing ships, searching for any clue about what had happened to them. The stress of losing friends and colleagues had changed her too. The gentle scientist was still there, but something harder had awakened beneath the surface. We are looking for our missing people, she said simply. Sometimes that requires different skills than growing crops or teaching children. But these new humans carry weapons that are not registered with Council security. They watch everything and everyone. Yesterday, one of them asked me detailed questions about my homeworld's defenses. Yuna set down her instruments. Veeth, do you have children? The insect-like alien clicked his mandibles in confusion. I have spawned 3 offspring, yes. If someone took your children, what would you do to get them back? Veeth considered this. His species was not particularly aggressive, but like most parents, he would do anything to protect his young. I would search for them. I would ask for help. And if no one helped? If everyone told you that your children probably died from natural causes and you should accept it and move on? The alien's compound eyes focused on her with new understanding. I would search alone. I would use whatever tools were necessary. Then, you understand what is happening to humanity right now. The first real sign of change came when a Vorthan raiding fleet attacked the human medical station treating refugees from the border wars. The raiders expected easy prey. Medical stations were traditionally defenseless, protected only by galactic law in the hope that even pirates had some honor. They were wrong. The attack began at 0800 station time. 12 Vorthan warships dropped out of hyperspace and demanded that the medical station surrender all valuable supplies and equipment. When the station commander politely refused, the raiders opened fire. 4 minutes later, the entire Vorthan fleet was debris. The weapons that destroyed them were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Energy signatures that bent the laws of physics. Defensive shields that turned direct hits into harmless light shows. Weapon systems that fired projectiles at near light speed with perfect accuracy. Commander Minho stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, reading the after-action reports with grim satisfaction. Similar incidents were occurring across human space. Pirates who had preyed on peaceful human traders were discovering that their targets now carried weapons that could crack planets. How many ships have revealed defensive systems this week? He asked his tactical officer. 47 confirmed, sir. The UES Sejong engaged 3 Nexari destroyers that tried to intercept a supply convoy. The destroyers were eliminated without the Sejong taking any damage. Captain Ji-won entered the bridge, and Minho could see that the transformation was complete. The diplomatic uniform had been replaced by something that looked more military. Her movements were sharper, more purposeful. Status report, she ordered. Human ships across the galaxy are revealing weapon systems that were previously hidden. The other species are beginning to panic. The Council has called an emergency session. Ji-won smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Good, let them panic. Maybe fear will motivate them to actually help us find our people. The emergency council session was unlike anything in galactic history. Representatives from every major species demanded explanations for humanity's sudden military capabilities. The chamber buzzed with frightened whispers and angry accusations. Councillor Thex slammed his clawed fist on his speaking platform. This is unacceptable. The humans have violated dozens of weapons treaties. They have hidden military technology that could threaten every civilization in the galaxy. The Nexari representative Quilex spoke in her characteristic cold tone. Our intelligence services estimate that human ships are now individually more powerful than most of our battle fleets. How is this possible? How long have you been deceiving us? Captain Ji-won stood to address the chamber. The fear in the room was almost tangible. Delegates who had once dismissed humanity as weak farmers and merchants now looked at her with the respect reserved for apex predators. Honored counselors, she began, her voice carrying easily through the silent chamber. Humanity has never lied to this council. We told you we were peaceful. We are. We told you we preferred trade to conquest. We do. We told you we would rather help than hurt. That is still true. Then explain these weapons, Thex demanded. Explain how peaceful traders suddenly possess technology that makes our finest warships look like toys. Ji-won looked around the chamber, meeting the frightened eyes of beings who had once mocked her people. We never said we were helpless. We said we were peaceful. There is a difference. She activated a holographic display that showed the human fleet movements across the galaxy. Ships that had been cataloged as research vessels and cargo haulers were revealing their true nature. The peaceful explorers were becoming something else entirely. My species learned long ago that the capacity for violence and the choice to be violent are different things. We chose peace because we knew the alternative. We chose to help because we understood the cost of conquest. The Etherean Sage Luminar pulsed with nervous light. Yet now you choose differently. Why? Because someone is taking our people. Someone is killing our families. And this council, which promised to protect all member species equally, has done nothing to help us. Admiral Deho's image appeared on the chamber's main communication screen. The old soldier looked every bit as dangerous as the weapons his fleets carried. Counselors, he said, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. For 50 years, humanity has contributed to galactic civilization. We have built hospitals, schools, and trade networks. We have mediated conflicts and prevented wars. We have been the peacekeepers you needed. He paused, letting his words sink in. But we have also been preparing. While you fought over resources, we developed technologies that could protect innocent life. While you built empires, we built defenses against the kind of threats that could destroy entire civilizations. Counselor Thex found his voice again. You speak of threats. What threats require weapons capable of destroying star systems? Admiral Deho's smile was grimmer than a funeral. The kind that take 21,000 people without leaving a trace, Doctor. Yuna had been monitoring the council session from her laboratory when something unprecedented happened. Her analysis equipment, designed to study alien biology, suddenly detected something massive moving through deep space. The readings were impossible. The entity was larger than most moons, but it moved with purpose and intelligence. It existed partially outside normal spacetime, which explained why conventional sensors had never detected it before. Computer, analyze the energy patterns from the missing ship locations and compare them to current readings. The analysis took only seconds. The match was perfect. Dr. Yuna felt her blood turn to ice. The thing that had taken the human ships was not a pirate fleet or a rogue military force. It was something far worse. Something ancient and alien and hungry. She opened a communication channel to the council chamber. Captain Ji-won, you need to see this immediately. The holographic display in the council chamber changed, showing Dr. Yuna's readings. The massive alien entity appeared on the screen like a nightmare made real. It pulsed with stolen life force and moved through space like a predator hunting prey. "What is that thing?" Quillex asked, her cold composure finally cracking. Dr. Yuna's voice came through the speakers, tight with controlled terror. "According to the ancient Etherian texts I found, it's called the Devourer of Worlds. It's been sleeping between galaxies for millions of years, waking periodically to feed on entire civilizations." The chamber erupted in frightened voices. Representatives from species that had survived for millennia suddenly understood that they faced something beyond their comprehension. Captain Ji-won stood in the center of the chaos, perfectly calm. When she spoke, her voice cut through the noise like a sword through silk. "Now do you understand? This thing has been taking our ships, our people, our families. It feeds on life itself, and it won't stop with humanity. Every species in this galaxy is on its..." Menushi looked around the chamber at the terrified faces of beings who had once considered themselves apex predators. "You want to know why we built weapons capable of destroying star systems? This is why. Because sometimes peaceful people have to become warriors to protect what they love." Counselor Thex for once had nothing to say. Admiral Daho's voice filled the chamber one final time. "The home fleet is moving to intercept this creature. We will rescue our people and eliminate this threat. You can help us, or you can hide in your safe systems while we do what must be done." Dr. Yuna worked through the night, her fingers flying over holographic displays as she analyzed every piece of data about the creature that had taken their people. What she discovered made her wish she had never looked. The Devourer of Worlds was older than most stars. It had existed when the galaxy was young, feeding on primitive civilizations that had no defense against its hunger. The ancient texts she found buried in the Etherian archives spoke of entire species that had simply vanished from history, their existence erased so completely that only fragments remained. Commander Minho found her in the laboratory at dawn, surrounded by floating displays showing the creature's feeding patterns across millions of years. "Doctor, you need to see this," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. The main display changed to show a real-time image from the human scout ship that had located the Devourer. The creature hung in space like a living nightmare, its form constantly shifting between dimensions. Dark tentacles the size of continents writhed around a central mass that pulsed with stolen life energy. But it was what surrounded the creature that made both humans stop breathing. "Those are our ships," Minho whispered. The hulks of human vessels floated around the Devourer like toys around a sleeping child. The New Soul, the Busan Dream, the Daegu Explorer, the Ancient Hope, and dozens of others. They were intact but dark, their crews nowhere to be seen. "Are they?" Minho began. Dr. Yuna's voice was barely audible. "The bioscanners are picking up human life signs. Thousands of them. They're inside the creature." The display zoomed in on the Devourer's central mass, revealing structures that looked almost organic, chambers and passages that seemed to pulse with their own heartbeat, and within those chambers the faint signatures of human consciousness. "They're alive," Yuna confirmed, her scientific training warring with her emotional response. "But the neural patterns are wrong. The creature isn't just feeding on their bodies. It's feeding on their minds, their memories, their very essence." Minho felt rage building in his chest like a fire. How long can they survive in there? Based on these readings, not long. The creature is slowly draining everything that makes them human. Soon there will be nothing left but empty shells. Captain Ji-won arrived at that moment, followed by Admiral Daho's holographic projection. The old soldier took one look at the displays and his weathered face went stone cold. "How many?" he asked. "Over 70,000 human life signs," Dr. Yuna reported. "The creature has been collecting our people for months, maybe longer. Every missing ship, every lost convoy, they're all in there." Ji-won stared at the image of her sister's ship floating helplessly around the nightmare creature. Captain Hyejin was somewhere inside that thing, experiencing horrors beyond imagination. "What does it want?" she asked. Dr. Yuna pulled up another display showing the creature's movement patterns. "It's not random. The Devourer feeds on species that show certain characteristics. High intelligence, strong emotional bonds, complex social structures. Humanity fits its preferred profile perfectly." "It's been hunting us specifically," Admiral Daho realized. "This isn't just random predation. It chose us." "The ancient texts suggest it feeds differently on different species," Yuna continued. "Some it consumes quickly for raw energy. Others it keeps alive longer, feeding slowly on their consciousness, their creativity, their capacity for love and hope. We're the second type. The revelation hit them like a physical blow. The Devourer wasn't just killing humans. It was torturing them, keeping them alive to maximize their suffering and fear. Minho's training kicked in. What are our tactical options? Admiral Deho studied the creature's size and energy readings. Conventional weapons would be useless. The thing exists partially outside normal space-time. Most of our shots would pass right through it. Most? Captain Jiwan caught the qualifier. The deep storage weapons might work. The ones we swore we would never use again. The chamber fell silent. Every human knew about the deep storage weapons. Technologies developed during the darkest period of human history, when they had almost destroyed themselves in the Unification Wars. Weapons so terrible that their very existence was classified at the highest levels. Sir, Minho said carefully, those weapons were banned for good reason. They don't just destroy targets. They unmake them completely, erasing them from reality itself. I know what they do, Commander, Admiral Deho replied grimly. I helped design some of them. But conventional weapons won't touch this creature, and our people are dying while we debate ethics. Captain Jiwan moved to the tactical display, studying the Devourer's structure. What about the humans inside it? If we use weapons that powerful, can we save them? Dr. Yuna ran quick calculations. Maybe. If we can disrupt the creature's feeding process without destroying the chambers where it's keeping our people, we might be able to extract them. Might, Jiwan repeated. It's the best chance they have, Yuna admitted. The alternative is letting them be slowly consumed until nothing remains. Admiral Deho made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. I'm authorizing activation of the God-Killer weapons. Full deployment of the home fleet. We're going to kill this thing and bring our people home. The reaction across human space was immediate. Ships that had been hidden for decades emerged from dimensional storage. Weapons that existed only in classified files were loaded and prepared for battle. The human military machine that had been sleeping since the Unification Wars awakened with terrible purpose. On the bridge of the UES Eternal Resolve, Admiral Deho watched as his fleet assembled. Ships that could crack moons, weapons that could tear holes in space itself, soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war they hoped would never come. Captain Jiwan stood beside him, no longer the diplomat she had been. The uniform she wore now belonged to the Special Operations Division, humanity's elite military force. Admiral, the other Council species are requesting permission to assist. Deho almost laughed. Now they want to help? After we've spent months begging them to search for our people? What should I tell them? The old soldiers studied the tactical displays showing the approaching human fleet. Hundreds of ships, each one carrying enough firepower to sterilize a solar system. The peaceful traders and farmers that the galaxy knew were gone, replaced by something that made hardened warriors nervous. Tell them they can watch from a safe distance. This is humanity's fight now. Dr. Yuna monitored the creature's behavior from her mobile laboratory aboard the UES Healing Light. As the human fleet approached, the Devourer began to move, its massive form shifting through dimensions like a shark sensing blood in the water. It knows we're coming, she reported. The creature is preparing for battle. Good, Captain Jiwan replied over the communication channel. Let it know what's coming. Let it feel fear for the first time in its miserable existence. The Devourer's response was immediate and terrifying. Gravity wells that could crush planets formed around its extremities. Energy discharges that made supernovas look dim crackled across its surface. The creature that had fed on countless civilizations was revealing why it had remained unchallenged for millions of years. But humanity had spent centuries preparing for enemies that defied comprehension. They had survived their own attempts at self-destruction and learned to fight wars that took place across multiple dimensions of reality. Admiral Deho opened a fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Deho. Today we face something that has terrorized the galaxy since before our sun was born. It has taken our families, tortured our children, and fed on our people like cattle. His voice carried across every channel, reaching not just the human fleet but broadcasting to every species in the galaxy. We are not here for conquest or glory. We are here because someone threatened our families. We are here because the people we love are trapped inside that nightmare, suffering while the galaxy does nothing. The creature seemed to sense the approaching battle, its form writhing with anticipation. Today we remind the universe why humanity survived when other species fell to extinction. Today we show what happens when you make the mistake of threatening those we protect. Captain Jiwan felt the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for battle with the grim efficiency of people who had accepted that they might not survive the day. "All ships report ready, Admiral," she announced. Admiral Deho looked out at the cosmic horror that had plagued the galaxy for eons, the creature that fed on fear and despair, the nightmare that had taken everything precious from thousands of human families. "Weapons free," he ordered. "Let's bring our people home." The human fleet moved through space like the wrath of gods made manifest. Ships that had hidden among peaceful traders now revealed their true nature. The UES Terra's wrath stretched nearly 50 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull bristling with weapons that could shatter moons. The UES Silent Fury seemed to fade in and out of reality itself, its stealth systems bending light and gravity around its massive frame. Admiral Deho stood on the command bridge of the UES Eternal Resolve, watching as his fleet approached the creature that had haunted his nightmares for months. The devourer of worlds hung in space like a cancerous growth on reality itself, its form constantly shifting between dimensions. "Distance to target?" he asked. 2 million kilometers in closing, reported Commander Tejan from the navigation station. "The creature is definitely aware of our approach. Its energy output has increased by 300%. Captain Jiwan studied the tactical displays from her position at the Fleet Coordination Center. The rescue mission had become her primary responsibility, and she felt the weight of 70,000 lives pressing down on her shoulders. "Dr. Yuna, status on the extraction plan?" The scientist's voice came through the communication system from her position aboard the medical ship. "I've identified the feeding chambers where our people are being held. The good news is they're clustered in 3 main sections. The bad news is those sections are deep inside the creature's central mass." "How deep?" Admiral Deho asked. "Past multiple layers of what I can only describe as living armor. The creature has been feeding for millions of years. It knows how to protect its food source." Commander Minho, now serving as the fleet's tactical coordinator, highlighted the approach routes on the main display. "We'll need to punch through those defenses to reach our people, and we'll have to do it fast before the creature can adapt to our weapons." The devourer seemed to sense their intentions. Massive tentacles that dwarfed battleships began moving through space around its central body. Each tentacle crackled with energy that could vaporize entire fleets. Gravity wells formed and collapsed, in patterns that would have torn apart any conventional force. "Contact in 60 seconds, announced the sensor operator. Admiral Deho opened the fleet communication channel one final time before battle. "All ships, remember why we're here. Our families are inside that thing, suffering while we speak. Some of you have children trapped in there. Some have spouses, parents, friends. Today we bring them home or we die trying." The response came as a roar of acknowledgement from hundreds of ships. Crews who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Soldiers who understood that failure meant the loss of everything they held dear. "Commence attack," Admiral Deho ordered. The battle began with a symphony of destruction that could be seen from neighboring star systems. The UES Terra's Wrath fired its main cannon, a weapon that channeled the quantum energy of collapsed stars into a beam of pure annihilation. The shot tore through spacetime itself, punching a hole completely through one of the creature's massive tentacles. The devourer's response was immediate and terrifying. Energy blasts that made nuclear weapons look like firecrackers erupted from its surface. Gravity waves that could crush planets swept across the battlefield. The space around the creature became a hellscape of twisted physics and impossible geometries. But humanity had prepared for impossible enemies. The UES Silent Fury materialized, inside the creature's defensive perimeter, its stealth systems allowing it to appear where no ship should be able to survive. Its weapons, designed to function in hostile dimensions, began tearing into the creature's living armor from within its own defenses. "Hull breach detected in Sector 7, Dr. Yuna reported excitedly. "We're reading massive bioneural feedback. The creature is in pain." Captain Jiwan felt a surge of savage satisfaction. "Good. Let it suffer like our people have suffered." The battle raged across multiple dimensions of space-time. Human ships phased in and out of reality, their crews protected by technology that treated the laws of physics as guidelines rather than absolute rules. Weapons that should not have been possible fired projectiles that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Commander Minho coordinated the assault from his position aboard the command ship. Wave 2, focus fire on the feeding chambers. We need to create extraction points for the rescue teams. The second wave of ships included specialized vessels designed for exactly this type of mission. The UES Mercy's Edge, equipped with dimensional extraction technology. The UES Hope's Dawn, carrying medical teams trained to treat victims of cosmic horror. The UES Final Oath, whose only purpose was to ensure no human would be left behind. Dr. Yuna monitored the creature's vital signs as the battle progressed. What she saw both amazed and terrified her. The Devourer was ancient beyond measure, but it had never faced anything like human warfare. The creature is trying to retreat, she announced. It's attempting to phase shift into deep space. Not today. Admiral Deho growled. All ships, activate dimensional anchors. Nothing leaves this system until our people are safe. The human fleet deployed technology that locked space-time itself into rigid patterns. The Devourer found itself trapped, unable to escape into the deep dimensions where it had hidden for millions of years. For the first time in its existence, the cosmic predator experienced fear. Captain Jiwan led the first rescue team personally, taking a small fleet of assault ships directly into the creature's wounded sections. The environment inside the Devourer was like something from humanity's worst nightmares. Living walls that pulsed with alien heartbeats, passages that led through twisted geometries that hurt to look at, but they pressed forward, driven by the knowledge that their people were suffering somewhere in this hell. Life signs detected, announced Lieutenant Jin Hee from the sensor station. Human life signs approximately 2 kilometers ahead. They found the first group of survivors in a chamber that defied description. The walls were made of something that looked like crystallized screams, pulsing with the stolen memories of countless civilizations. And there, suspended in pods of living tissue, were 300 humans from the merchant ship Busan Dream. Captain Ji-won felt her heart break as she saw their faces. They were alive, but their eyes held the hollow look of people who had experienced horrors beyond imagination. The creature had been feeding on their fear, their hope, their very souls for months. "Get them out of there," she ordered, her voice thick with rage. The rescue team worked with desperate efficiency, cutting through the organic pods while the battle raged around them. Each freed human was immediately transported to the medical ships waiting outside the creature's body. "Captain," Dr. Yuna's voice crackled through the communication system. "I'm detecting something else. The creature isn't just holding our people prisoner. It's been studying them, learning from them. It knows how humans think now, how they fight, how they love." The implications hit Ji-won like a physical blow. The Devourer had been preparing to hunt humanity more effectively. Every person it had taken was not just food, but intelligence gathering for a larger plan. "How many more chambers?" she asked. "Dozens, maybe hundreds. This thing has been collecting humans for longer than we thought." The rescue operation continued as the battle intensified around them. Admiral Deho's fleet was slowly winning, but the cost was terrible. Ships that had served humanity for decades were being destroyed by weapons that existed outside normal reality. "Sir," Commander Taejin reported from the flagship's bridge, "we're losing the UES Defiant Shield. The creature's counterattack has overwhelmed their defenses." Admiral Deho watched as one of his finest ships died in a blaze of impossible fire. 3,000 crew members, gone in an instant, but they had died protecting something more important than themselves. "Continue the assault," he ordered. "Every human we save justifies every sacrifice we make," deep inside the creature. Captain Ji-won's rescue team found the chamber that would haunt their dreams forever. It was larger than the others, and the humans inside were different. They had been in the creature's care longer, and it had been experimenting on them. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Jin Hee as they entered the chamber. The humans suspended here were connected to the creature's nervous system by tendrils of living tissue. Their minds had been partially merged with the Devourer's consciousness, allowing it to experience human emotions and memories firsthand. Among them, Captain Jiwon found her sister. Captain Hyejin hung suspended in a web of organic cables, her eyes open but unfocused. She was alive, but barely recognizable as the vibrant woman who had commanded the Incheon Hope Hyejin. Jiwon whispered, reaching out to touch her sister's face. Hyejin's eyes focused suddenly, and for a moment she was herself again. Jiwon, is this real, or is it another one of its dreams? It's real, sister. We've come to take you home. The rescue took precious minutes as the medical team carefully disconnected Hyejin from the creature's neural web. Around them, the devourer thrashed in pain and rage, its feeding chambers collapsing as the human fleet's weapons tore through its body. All rescue teams, this is Admiral Daeho. The creature is destabilizing. We need to evacuate all personnel. Immediately, Captain Jiwon carried her sister to the extraction point, where emergency transporters were pulling survivors from the nightmare they had endured. 3 days after the battle, the galaxy was still trying to understand what it had witnessed. The explosion that marked the death of the devourer of worlds had been detected by every sensor array within 50 light-years. Energy readings that broke the scales of measurement, gravitational waves that made nearby stars flicker, but it was not the destruction that terrified the galactic community. It was the realization of what humanity had become. Captain Jiwon stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, but everything had changed. The desperate diplomat who had begged for help months earlier was gone. In her place stood a military commander whose very presence made hardened warriors shift nervously in their seats. The human delegation now included Admiral Daeho, whose reputation had spread across the galaxy in a matter of hours. The old soldier sat quietly, but his calm demeanor was more frightening than any threat. Everyone in the chamber knew he commanded weapons that could crack planets. "The creature is dead," Jiwon announced simply. "Our people have been rescued. The threat to galactic civilization has been eliminated." Counselor Thex, who had once mocked humanity as poor navigators, could barely bring himself to speak. "The energy readings from your weapons. Our scientists say they should be impossible. How long have you possessed such technology?" "Long enough," Admiral Daeho replied. "The real question is why you're surprised. Did you think a species that survived on a death world and reached the stars would be defenseless?" The Nexari representative Quilax leaned forward with her characteristic calculating expression, but now it was tinged with fear. "Our intelligence services have been analyzing the battle footage. Some of your weapons appear to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. This technology could threaten every civilization in the galaxy." Captain Jiwon smiled, and the expression made several delegates instinctively recoil. "Only if those civilizations threaten us first." Dr. Yuna entered the chamber at that moment, carrying a datapad with her final analysis of the creature they had destroyed. The gentle scientist that the council had known was still there, but something harder had awakened beneath the surface. "Honored counselors," she began, "my research into the devourer has revealed something you need to understand. This creature was not unique. It was one of many cosmic predators that exist between galaxies, feeding on civilizations like ours." The chamber erupted in frightened voices. The idea that there might be more creatures like the devourer sent panic through even the most warlike species. "How many more?" the Etherean sage Luminar asked, his crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. "Unknown," Dr. Yuna replied, "but the creature's memories, which we were able to partially decode before its destruction, suggest that others will eventually come. The death of this one may actually attract them." Admiral Daeho stood slowly, his movement causing a ripple of tension through the chamber. "Which brings us to the real reason for this meeting. The galaxy has a choice to make." He activated a holographic display that showed the current distribution of military forces across known space. The Vorthan fleets, the Nexari armadas, the various smaller military forces of member species, all of them dwarfed by the newly revealed human navy. For 50 years, humanity has served as peacekeepers and mediators. We helped settle disputes, provided medical aid, and maintained trade routes. We did this because we believed in the ideals of the Galactic Council. His voice grew colder. "But when our people were taken, when our families were suffering, the Council gave us bureaucracy and excuses. You were willing to let 70,000 humans die rather than risk your own ships in a search and rescue operation." Counselor Thex tried to interrupt. "The regions where your ships disappeared were known to be dangerous. We could not risk—" "You could not risk helping," Captain Jiwon cut him off. So humanity took the risk alone, and now you see the result. The holographic display changed to show battle footage from the fight against the Devourer. Human ships moving through impossible geometries, weapons that fired across multiple dimensions, defensive systems that treated the laws of physics as mere suggestions. We developed these capabilities to protect innocent life, Admiral Deho continued. While you built empires and fought wars over resources, we prepared for threats that could destroy entire civilizations. Dr. Yuna stepped forward. The creature we destroyed was ancient beyond measure. It had consumed countless species across millions of years, yet it had never encountered resistance like what humanity provided. Do you know why? The chamber was silent, waiting for her answer. Because every other species it encountered faced it alone. They called for help just as we did. And just as with us, that help never came. So they died alone, consumed by something they could not comprehend or defeat. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. The Galactic Council's greatest failure was not just refusing to help humanity. It was a pattern of abandoning member species when they faced existential threats. Captain Jiwan walked to the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Humanity has a decision to make. We can continue to serve as peacekeepers and mediators, helping to maintain galactic civilization, or we can withdraw to our own space and let the galaxy face the next cosmic threat without us. You would abandon the Council? Quilex asked, her composure finally cracking. The Council abandoned us, Jiwan replied simply. We asked for help and received nothing. We begged for search parties and got paperwork. We pleaded for investigation teams and were told to accept natural explanations for our people's disappearance. Admiral Deho's voice filled the chamber like distant thunder. But we are not like the Council. We do not abandon those who need help, so we offer a different arrangement. The holographic display changed again, showing a new organizational structure that placed human military forces at the center of galactic defense. Humanity will assume responsibility for protecting all Council member species from cosmic-level threats. We will deploy our fleets to defend worlds that cannot defend themselves. We will investigate phenomena that your scientists cannot explain. We will stand between the galaxy and the darkness that surrounds it, and in return, Thex asked suspiciously. In return, the Council will never again ignore a member species' call for help. When someone's people are missing, you will search for them. When someone's world is threatened, you will defend it. When someone asks for aid, you will provide it. Captain Jiwan's smile was sharp as a blade. And if you refuse, if you return to the old ways of abandoning those in need, then humanity will withdraw to our own space. You can face the next devourer of worlds on your own. The vote was unanimous. 6 months later, Captain Jiwan stood on the observation deck of the UES Harmony, watching human patrol ships move through space on their regular protection runs. The galaxy had learned to sleep more peacefully, knowing that Earth's children stood watch against the dark. Her sister Hyejin joined her, having recovered enough to return to active duty. The experience inside the creature had changed her, but she was still the brave ship captain who had volunteered to lead colonists to new worlds. Any regrets? Hyejin asked. Jiwan considered the question. The galaxy would never again see humanity as weak farmers and merchants. The mask of peaceful diplomacy had been torn away, revealing the apex predators beneath. Some species feared them now. Others respected them. None would ever dismiss them again. The creature made a mistake, Jiwan said finally. It showed us what we were truly capable of when everything we love is threatened. That knowledge changes everything behind them. Admiral Deho's latest report scrolled across a display screen. Deep space monitors had detected gravitational anomalies in the void between galaxies. Something was stirring in the cosmic dark, perhaps drawn by the death of the Devourer. But humanity was ready, Doctor. Yuna had established new research centers dedicated to studying cosmic threats. The human fleet had been expanded and equipped with even more advanced weapons. Most importantly, the galaxy had learned to call for help before it was too late. Commander Minho joined the sisters on the observation deck, carrying the latest intelligence reports. Admiral Deho wants to see you both. There's been a development. They found the old soldier in his office, studying star charts that showed the unexplored regions beyond the galactic rim. His expression was grim but determined. We're getting reports of missing ships again, he announced. But this time it's not just humans. 3 Vorthan vessels, 2 Nexari research ships, and an Etherian exploration fleet have all disappeared in the same regio. Captain Jiwon felt the familiar fire of protective rage kindle in her chest. Another creature unknown. But whatever it is, it's learning from the Devourer's mistake. It's not focusing on one species. Admiral Deho turned to face them, and his smile was terrible to behold. The Council has formally requested our assistance. They want humanity to investigate and eliminate this new threat. And our response? Yijin asked. The old soldier's eyes burned with the light of distant stars. We told them we would handle it. Because that's what we do now. We stand between the galaxy and the darkness. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. He activated a holographic display showing the human fleet already moving toward the danger zone, ships that could bend reality to their will, crewed by people who had